Welcome to the Beyond Sugar Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Dame, holistic nutrition coach and speaker. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode here on the Beyond Sugar Freedom podcast. I'm your guest, Danielle Dame, sugar freedom coach and speaker, and I'm so excited to be tuning in for another episode. I hope that you're loving the podcast so far. This has been so fun. I've been having some incredible conversations with some amazing guests, and also, of course, bringing you some really powerful topics, when I film these solo episodes. So I hope that you're loving all of this. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome. And if you're not new and you've been listening for a while, so grateful that you're here following along. And a friendly reminder that it helps me so much reach more people with this podcast if you take a minute to leave a 5-star review. So if you're able to do that, wherever you're listening to podcasts, on Apple or on Spotify, that would mean the world to me and really help, like I said, help me help more people with this deeper dive conversation around our relationship with food. And today I was really thinking about what's my insight? What's the piece, the little nugget that I want to share at the beginning of this episode with all of you? And something that I really do want to share, and I think this is really important because I want all of you listening and to really know that I'm a human too. And so many times it can seem like I get put on this pedestal, because I have this podcast, because of my programs and the coaching and the work that I do with my clients. And I'm still not perfect. And one of the things, the big thing that I do want to share and open up about right now is that the last couple months have not been my healthiest months. I have really been observing myself, developing or kind of falling into some old habits, old patterns in a very small way, and just noticing that I'm not doing the normal healthy routines that I used to. And, there's many reasons for that. And this is such an opportunity for me to reflect on, well, why am I not, fasting like I used to and meditating every morning and eating, as sugar-free as I want to? Those things have been creeping in, having a coffee every day, which is something that I don't really want to do. So really just observing these pieces and what comes up for me in this journey and this evolution, right, is this reminder that we're always evolving and we're always shifting, and there's always something new or a new level or a new challenge that comes up. And when we can adopt, and I love that I've done this, and this is what I teach my clients to do, right, adopt this growth mindset where we can observe ourselves in these unhealthy patterns or in these situations in our life and observe with love and compassion, we can actually support ourselves in navigating out of them when we're ready. And there's this very interesting space. I've had this conversation with a lot of my friends when we get really deep into just some deep conversations. And it's a very interesting phenomenon that happens when you are really self-aware and you have been doing a lot of this inner work. When these patterns or times or periods show up for whatever reason, where, hey, I'm just observing that, I'm not really doing the healthy routines that I used to, or the healthy, meal planning that I used to, or whatever it is, there's this period of time where you're observing yourself doing that. Like I have this experience where it's almost like I'm observing myself from outside of my body and just looking down at me going, oh, isn't that interesting that there's these things sneaking in, or these habits sneaking in, or these pieces that aren't in alignment with your higher self, and observing that. And at the same time, not quite being ready to change it. So there's a very weird, kind of in between space where you're aware, and I am going through this right now at the time of recording this, I'm aware that some of these patterns are showing up for me from this different stage of growth and some things that I'm going through. And I'm also, at least for the last couple months, haven't quite been ready to change it, right? I'm observing it. Okay, maybe I'm using these things for emotional reasons, or I'm using, eating later at night than I would want to. I'm eating, past my fasting window because I just want some comfort, or there's different things showing up for me, and I wasn't ready to change it. And part of this process that's really fascinating that I'm playing with on behalf of all of you and teaching my clients, right, is to flow with these times and to also really innately know that when you're ready to shift out of them, or you're ready to do something about it, you will. I have all the tools I need. I know exactly what I need to do. And I'm trusting in my body. Again, this is really trusting in my process and my body that when I'm ready to shift out of it, I will. And that's actually happening, at the time of recording this, the beginning of July. I'm feeling that pull already. And I'm getting back into some of these really nourishing things that I know support me. Getting back into intermittent fasting, cutting out the late night eating, getting back into morning movement every morning, building some more strength. I haven't really been doing my fitness like I normally had been. So just I'm feeling that shift already. And it's not because I forced it. It's not because I guilted myself into it. It's because I'm ready. And it's because, I want to get back into feeling my best, right? And my body feeling my best. So whatever you want to take out of that, I just really wanted to share, this journey that I'm on and continuing to be on. This is always evolving and growing, and I'm always learning and growing. I am by far from perfect, far from perfect. And I actually never want to be perfect. I always want to grow and evolve. And there's always going to be new challenges that threaten to bring back these unhealthy patterns. And it feels like such a gift to myself to really be gentle and compassionate and loving as I observe myself through these times and knowing exactly what to do when I'm ready. That is such freedom and peace, especially when it comes to not beating ourselves up, not body shaming ourselves, not, guilting ourselves every single day to a place where we start hating ourselves because we're in a bad habit or a bad pattern. So if you're dealing with any of that right now and you're maybe in this place where you're really stuck in that shaming and guilting and beating yourself up for maybe not quite being ready or not knowing how to start shifting out of, eating sugar or late night snacking or emotional eating or all these things. So just a reminder for you, if that is you, to be gentle with yourself, right? Be compassionate and lean into the healthy habits that you do have, right? Extra hydration, maybe going for a walk every day, doing the things that still connect you with yourself that might not be where you want to be, but they can be a nice bridge, into at least having some sort of resources and support for yourself every day. And actually, this is a beautiful segue. I didn't plan this, but this is really exciting heading into, I can't remember if I've announced this yet, but I'm actually just diving deep into starting behind the scenes planning for my next signature group program. So in the fall, early fall, I am going to launch another round of the Break Free from Sugar group program. This is my signature 10-week program that I have been hosting. This might be the 6th or 7th round over the last 4 years. This is really a compilation of everything I've learned in helping women create a lasting and healthy, peaceful relationship with food and ultimately themselves from the inside out. So we do so much in that 10 weeks and coming together in community, really guiding you through this inner work that we talk about here on the podcast, as well as detoxing from sugar, learning how to cook and eat a new way, and ultimately be a new way. Show up as a different version of yourself, a new and improved version of yourself, where you can have more of this self-compassion that I'm talking about, and know, what foods nourish you, what don't. So this program is incredible. This is really like a compilation of everything I do with my one-on-one clients over 6 months in just 10 weeks. And it's powerful how we can do that together and how the transformations can unfold from there. So I'm really excited to be, I'm doing some planning behind the scenes as we speak. So if you want to be the first to know when registration opens in the fall for this program, get your name on the wait list. I'll make sure the link is below in the show notes. Just put your name on the wait list. You're going to get the first chance to register and all the details before the public. And I also always throw in some extra special bonuses and sometimes some discounts for those who are on the wait list. So get your name on. There's no pressure to sign up, but at least you'll be the first to know and get those awesome bonuses and chances to get in first. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Okay, this is really fascinating. This is something I talk a lot about in the Break Free from Sugar program. And we really dive into in a big way together because how our mind works, and it's really fascinating when we start to understand this, is that we are benefit driven. right? Our propensity, our subconscious mind is always driving towards pleasure, towards benefit, and away from pain, away from difficulty, right? So this is something that's very real, built into all of us, this drive to do things that benefit us or do things that give us pleasure. So this, and obviously how this applies to sugar is actually really fascinating. And the way I want to share this with all of you today is starting to ask and look through this lens of, as you're observing some unhealthy patterns, right? And I'm doing that right now, whatever the unhealthy pattern is, whether it's binging on sugar or late night eating or not exercising or sitting around watching Netflix all night, whatever that is, observing that and starting to ask yourself, what's the benefit I'm getting from this? Because there is a benefit. And this is why I labeled, I named this episode, the why you're wanting to stay hooked on sugar. There is a part of you, there is a part of your subconscious that you might not be aware of until you listen to this episode that actually wants to stay hooked on sugar. Maybe you are aware of it, right? There's part of you that's like, yes, I'm getting a lot of benefits from eating this way and from not looking after myself. And it seems so counterintuitive when you start actually deeply looking at this, especially with, really, really sabotaging, harmful behaviors, such as binging on sugar every night, right? Why on earth would I want to do that to myself? Right? There's this very real subconscious internal battle, or maybe it's in your conscious mind, and you sit there having this internal battle with yourself at night. Like, how is this actually, why am I doing this? Right? Why can't I seem to stop? And this is where it becomes really fascinating, because when you start actually asking this question through a different lens of, what am I getting out of this? What is the benefit I'm getting from binging on sugar every night? Because there's a benefit. There's probably a few benefits. And when we can start understanding the benefits to the unhealthy habits, right? Maybe it's sitting all day instead of moving, or not hydrating all day, or whatever the pattern is in your life, in all areas of your life, there is a benefit you're getting from it. And a lot of times when we think about benefits, and I ask this question in the Break Free from Sugar program, our mind immediately goes to, well, I'm not getting any physical benefit, so there's no benefit. The benefit is usually mental and emotional. It's usually not a physical benefit. Yes, of course, we're going to get physical benefits when we run or do yoga or have a dance party. We're going to feel those amazing benefits in our physical body. But a lot of what's coming up, especially around unhealthy habits and unhealthy patterns, is that they're actually doing damage and harm to our physical bodies, but mentally and emotionally, they're providing us some sort of benefit. So there's this conflict. There's a very real internal conflict. Can you relate to that? Have you ever had that experience? I'd love to know. Come and send me a message. Let me know, because this is something I see in all of the women that I work with. There is this real drive for what we're doing and our actions and our behaviors giving us some sort of benefit. So some examples of this might be, and this does really involve you looking at your habits and patterns with a different set of eyes, right? A different lens. So some examples, right, is saying yes and people pleasing to everyone and everything. You're the yes person. Yes, I'll drive Susie to soccer practice. Yes, I'll do all the grocery shopping. Yes, I'll take that extra project at work. Yes, yes, yes. No problem. I can do it all. You're getting something from that. There's so many things that you can be getting from that, but a big one might be a sense of love and a sense of worth, right? Ooh, people need me. I'm important. And that is something that we need to feel. So we're getting that, but from an unhealthy way. So we're trying to get some of our needs met, right? And our behaviors are driven by this benefit to get this need. And what's happening for so many of us is that we're being driven in the wrong directions, right? Unhealthy ways of attaining these needs, whether it's love or connection or joy or nourishment, right? We're trying to get these needs from unhealthy places. And this is where like these neural pathways need to be rewritten and changed, right? These new habits, these new ways of feeling, thinking, believing that need to be shifted. And this is exactly what I walk you through in the Break Free from Sugar program, is we spend 10 weeks actually diving in and having these conversations and giving you the tools to actually start switching these ways of thinking and these ways of being so you can show up differently in your life in a permanent way. Okay? Not some quick fix, some fad diet, right? This is about really creating lasting change from the inside out. Another great example, right? This one might be easier to share because it's in the healthy side of things, right? It's not an unhealthy pattern. So eating healthy, right? Eating nourishing meals and eating, not overeating, not eating too much sugar or processed oils and junk and processed food, right? The benefit from that, the benefits, the list is huge for the benefit from that, right? But you're going to have more energy. You're going to feel more light and free in your body. You're going to feel calm and connected with yourself, right? You're going to have better mental health and, you're going to feel stronger in your body, all these amazing benefits, right? So this is really powerful. Going for a walk, right? Obviously there's benefits there too, right? You're going to have a happy mind. You're going to get some fresh air, maybe be relaxed. Your body's going to be happy because it got to kind of move out for the day. So these areas of like healthy habits or healthy things that we're doing in our life are a lot easier to see the benefit, right? But there's a benefit you're getting from the unhealthy ones too. And I really want to hit that home. And here's what's really important to notice here, right? The benefit for many of you may be listening, and this was for me as well, the benefit that you're getting from staying hooked on sugar may be more than the perceived benefit of getting off. This is really powerful. I'm going to say this again. The benefit that you're getting from staying hooked on sugar is quite possibly more than the perceived benefit of getting off. So the benefits, the subconscious, energetic, emotional benefits that you're getting from staying hooked on sugar may be more than this perceived benefit of more energy, better digestion, better skin, better sleep, all the amazing things that come when you get off sugar. And when you can understand that balance, you can maybe start to understand and maybe have a little bit more insight. I'm hoping that this is landing, a little more insight as to why it's been so hard for you to get off of sugar. There's this very real pull, right? We're benefit driven. So if the benefit on side A is more than the perceived benefit on side B, we're going to stay over here in side A, right? So we need to start shifting the way we think and see and start understanding, number one, being aware of this like dynamic going on in your subconscious, and then starting to call ourselves out on the benefits on both sides, kind of like a pros and cons list, but a benefits list. So sitting down and starting to brainstorm for yourself, like what are the actual benefits I'm getting from X behavior, whether it's binging on sugar or, not moving your body or, staying up really late watching Netflix, right? And sacrificing your sleep, whatever the habit is. And then making a list as well of the benefits of when you don't do that thing. Right? When you're not staying up late, you're going to bed at the right time and you're feeling amazing the next day, or you're not eating late, or you're not binging on sugar. Like, what are those benefits? So you can have a side-by-side kind of visual view. I'm always a fan of doing that, right? In the journal and starting to just doing that activity, which is your homework. I'm officially giving you that homework right now. Not if you're driving, obviously, but when you get home tonight or the next couple days, really sit down and start brainstorming this. Like, what is actually going on for me? And it's going to be different for all of us, right? The benefits that we're going to get on either side of this equation, we'll call it, right, of the sugar equation, is going to be different for all of us. But to get you started, I did want to share just a short list of some of the benefits that I've really come across in my own life and working with clients, over the years, and really understanding the depth and complexity to what's really going on with our unhealthy eating. So some of the possible benefits, and again, this list is not complete. I want you to really sit down with yourself and connect as much as you can to your truth in this, right? And part of you is going to have to be a little bit bold in calling yourself out. This is what we call tough love, and I'm here to give it to you. You need to get real raw and honest with yourself. There are going to be some benefits that you're getting that don't feel good. You're like, ooh, actually having to write that down and acknowledge that feels kind of crappy. And that's okay. This is all part of the process of getting these things out in the open so that you can have awareness, because without Without awareness, we'll never change. This is so important, right? If you're not aware of something, like I am right now, aware of these unhealthy patterns that are kind of sneaking up for me. I'm aware of this, and that's how I'm going to be able to shift out of them. When we're not aware of what's going on, or aware of how much sugar we're eating, or aware of, how many grams we're actually consuming in a day, or whatever it is, we're never going to be able to make a change, right? So awareness, it comes right before making a change or transformation or a shift or, towards a goal of yours. So some of the possible benefits from staying hooked on sugar are being able to avoid something challenging and painful. That is a powerful benefit, right? We are now giving ourselves permission to avoid doing something difficult, doing something challenging, pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone, and maybe feeling pain. Right? As I said before, right? We are really, really driven towards pleasure and away from pain at all times. This is survival 101. This is how our subconscious brain works. So when we get to avoid pain, that's a benefit, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain. And here's the thing with sugar, right? This perceived pain of giving up sugar. Oh, it's going to hurt. I'm going to have withdrawal symptoms. I'm going to get be uncomfortable in my body for a couple weeks, right? I'm not going to have my emotional crutch. So there's going to be emotional pain. There's a perceived understanding that, oh my goodness, I'm going to actually have to feel the sadness or feel the anger and the emotions that I've been using sugar to numb. There's a lot of perceived physical and emotional pain that comes with getting off of sugar. And I'm saying the word perceived because it's not usually true. It's what you think is going to happen, right? We're always trying to fortune tell, right? The future. We're always trying to see the future. And that's a survival mechanism as well. And it's okay, but oftentimes it's very wrong. I've noticed this myself. Sometimes I make such a big deal of I have to make this phone call and it's going to be so difficult and challenging. It's going to be a hard conversation. I don't want to make this phone call. And then I make the phone call and it's effortless. It's like a quick 5-minute, no problem. There was no wait. I don't know, right? It's so fascinating how we do really blow things up out of proportion in our mind. So this perceived pain or challenge or struggle that you're telling yourself about giving up sugar is more powerful than the benefit you're telling yourself about giving up sugar. And this is why you're avoiding it. Or maybe, right? This is a really, really common one that I see, right? Is this benefit that you're getting is actually being able to avoid challenge, right? Avoid doing anything difficult. And I mean this in the most loving way, but most of us human beings have become really soft in terms of not really ever having to go through anything hard. And this has been really highlighted the last few years for most of us in how some of us are more resilient than others, right? How do we handle when life or the universe or the whole planet throws something really challenging at us? Do we take it on and support ourselves through it, or do we let it crumble us, right? Do we let it slip us into depression and really struggle? So that's obviously a bigger conversation for another day, but the more and this is something that I am not perfect at, but I want to practice more. And I am practicing, as much as I can, is doing things that are uncomfortable. I actually had this thought the other day. There's a river near my house, and I often go and run a circuit there, and then I swim in the river after. And I'm so glad the water's getting a little bit warmer. It makes it a bit easier to get in. But the river has now slowed enough that it's safe to swim away from the bank. Before it was rushing and, you didn't want to go too far out or you would get swept down the river. So the other morning I was there all by myself really early in the morning. It was a beautiful day. And I was, in the water, and I looked across the river and I said, you know what, I really want to swim across, because the sun was actually on the other side of the river. I was like, oh, I want to go sit in the sun there for a minute. And there was a part of me that just noticed this fear of the unknown of what was under the river. Am I going to hit a rock on my knee, or because it's dark, so I can't see the bottom. So there was this fear that came up for me around getting across this river. I was like, ooh, can I swim? It was like a 30-second swim. It wasn't far, but there was fear that came up around the unknown there, right? The unknown of, am I going to scrape my knee? Am I going to hurt myself, right? There was some sort of fear around hurting myself. or maybe getting swept down the river as well. I don't know. But there was fear coming up. And I remember having this internal like conversation with myself. I said, you know what? This is such a great opportunity to continue building my resiliency around stepping through the fear and out of my comfort zone. So I just like took 3 deep breaths and did it. I went for it. And of course it was super easy and effortless. It took me like 30 seconds to get across, and I got to sit in the sun and it was beautiful. And then I just made it back really easy. But it's those little chances throughout our day where we can be observant of a fear coming up, and we can start, I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but I think this is really important. This is how we start building resiliency, right? We start really getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and knowing that when we push ourselves outside of our comfort zone, or we notice a fear and we do something anyway, because we know that the fear isn't necessarily rational. It's not, obviously if there's like real fear and you're like in the woods somewhere being chased by a bear, that's a different story. Don't stop and try to take the bear on, but if it's a fear that is not really rational and it's something that is just coming up, can you push yourself through that? So I notice for myself, the more I do that, right, the more I'm like, okay, I'm afraid of swimming across this river, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to take 3 deep breaths and I'm going to do it. Not only do I feel so proud of myself, like I get this huge dopamine hit, and I think we all do when we do something difficult or something like out of our comfort zone and it works out. It is such a great feeling of like, whoo, wow, accomplishment. I did that. I'm proud of myself. I didn't get swept down the river. And this builds that resiliency muscle in our mind and our ability to then take on challenges, right? And to take on things like getting off sugar, even if it's going to be difficult, right? And we have no idea because it's very different for everybody, right? But these things are really important in our life. So whatever that is, I really encourage you. This is such a side tangent, but very related. I encourage you to look for opportunities in your day to start doing something out of your comfort zone, something challenging, and to start bringing awareness to when your fear shows up. There's fear in your body. There's some sort of reaction like, ooh, I don't want to do this, or, these things are showing up. And then see, is this going to be an opportunity for you to maybe do something uncomfortable? Maybe you feel uncomfortable, like having a conversation with the checkout lady at the grocery store, and it makes you feel all uncomfortable because you've got all your own trauma and fear around, interacting with people. And you do it anyway. Maybe you ask her a question. Maybe you start that conversation anyway. So these little things can be such beautiful opportunities just to get uncomfortable, like get out of your comfort zone, because that's where growth happens. And I know that all of you listening to this podcast want to grow. I know that because that's why you're listening to this podcast. So let that be another piece of homework for you to start practicing that. So, okay, bringing it back. That was the first like possible benefit that I see a lot of people getting out of staying hooked on sugar, right? It's being able to avoid this pain, avoid this challenge, avoid being out of their comfort zone. Another big thing that comes up with this is it's having sugar and eating sugar and engaging in, we'll call it sugar culture, right? At the office, at birthday parties. It actually, for most of us, helps us feel more connected with those around us. So sugar has this sense of like connection, like I'm doing what everyone else is doing, so I fit in. So we're getting that sense of security and connection from those around us as well. We also might be getting self-soothing, right? We might also be getting tapped into like being able to soothe and comfort ourselves, which is a big benefit. It's just maybe an unhealthy directed benefit, right? But it's a benefit that we're getting from eating this way. Maybe for you. Again, this is just a list of ideas that I've had. Maybe it's also giving you an excuse. It's giving you an excuse. And I want to call you out, anyone here who's, still maybe playing in victim mentality and not really understanding the power and resiliency that you have. You might be really clutching on to this addiction to sugar as an excuse for your current struggles. Maybe it's an excuse for why you can't lose weight, or why you don't have to do certain things, or you don't have to put yourself out there and apply for a new job or go find the love of your life because I'm addicted to sugar and I'm unhealthy, so I can't do these things. Right? There's some sort of story for a lot of us that, we're using being unhealthy to escape, to make an excuse. We don't have to put ourselves out there. We don't have to do hard things. We don't have to do all this because I just can't. I don't have the energy, or my body's not where I want it to be. So that's kind of one of the like shadow dark sides of looking at this as well. And that's okay. We all have this, right? This excuse for being in our current struggle, right? Like, oh, I have this certain problem, right? And it's because I'm hooked on sugar. It's not because you put yourself there. This is a tough pill to swallow, right? It's not because you and for some, yes, I'm not saying all of our health challenges are completely preventable, but I think a lot of them are more than we think. More than we think, and we have played a role in evolving to those places, right? Into getting to that place of health or struggle. And that can be really hard pill to swallow for ourselves, right? When we start noticing, wow, I did play a role in this, and I'm using, my unhealthy eating or my weight as an excuse not to change. Another big area and benefit that I see most people getting from sugar is joy, right? We use sugar as a sense of joy and love and connection, all of these basic human needs. And when we feel like that's the only source of joy in our life, we're going to be really leaning into that, right? And we're going to be seeing that as a benefit, right? Ooh, the more sugar I eat, the more joy I get, right? Again, this is just a misdirected source of joy, right? There's obviously a billion other ways to get joy and connection and all of these things that I'm listing. But for many of us, the subconscious pieces around this are very real and very vivid. Now, before I wrap things up, I really want to hit home here that this is so important to, as you build this awareness and this understanding of what's going on, to really, 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 really focus on compassion for these patterns, compassion for yourself. This isn't another reason to blame yourself or guilt yourself or say, what's wrong with my subconscious? I must be broken. No, 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 no. No, no, no. That is not what we're doing here. This is just gently, lovingly, compassionately bringing awareness and curiosity to these patterns that might be showing up, these subconscious ways of thinking and behaving that might be keeping you hooked on sugar, keeping you wanting to stay hooked on sugar. So really understanding that this whole episode, right, is about understanding how these behaviors and patterns are here to serve you, because they're serving you. They are serving you, or you would not be doing it. And I know that can be really hard to wrap your head around sometimes, especially if you're in like unhealthy relationships, or, you're really, really damaging your health with the way that you eat, to an extreme amount. It can be really hard to start understanding, how is this benefiting me? But it is. You would not be doing it if it wasn't. And once you start bringing this awareness, that's when you get to choose. There's no right or wrong answer. You get to choose if you want to change them. Do I want to change this pattern? I'm noticing this coming up as a reason that I'm staying hooked on sugar. Do I want to change it? Am I ready to change it? As I talked about at the beginning of this episode, there is a big energetic spiritual piece of also allowing yourself to be ready when you're ready. Now, be careful not to let that be an excuse to never be ready, because we can stay very, very easily in our ego self-sabotaging patterns of, well, I'm just never ready, right? I'm never ready to give up sugar or get healthy. So no, this is about observing this over a couple weeks, a couple months, and allowing yourself to shift into getting ready, right? And being willing to jump and leap out of your comfort zone into the struggles, obviously with the right support and guidance and all of these pieces that are so, so important. So as you go about your day today and your week this week, really, really just start paying close attention to what benefits are you getting here on either side of this spectrum, right? The benefit of staying hooked on sugar, the perceived benefit of getting off sugar, or having whatever healthy habit it is that you're trying to create or you're struggling with. And using that as a tool then to drive you into getting ready, right? Do you want to make these changes? And if the answer is no right now, practicing some compassion around that and some self-love. It's okay if the answer is no, I'm not ready, right? And then maybe starting to question, when will I be ready? When will I know I'll be ready? This is a big one, because we can sit in I'm not ready mode for our whole lives, because doing difficult things is very difficult. I'm actually dealing with that right now. There's a very difficult phone call that I have to make, and I'm like, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. But I know that I need to just leap and do it. So finding that balance, right? So you're not using this as an excuse to never be ready, but starting to ask yourself, how will I know when I am ready? And when will I be ready? So I hope you found this supportive and insightful. I'm really excited to hear what comes up for you. So don't forget to come and follow me on Instagram and send me a DM or on Facebook. I would love to hear your thoughts and your takeaways from this episode and where this is showing up for you. Let's keep this conversation going. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. This has been a really fun conversation. I hope you loved it too. And we'll see you in the next one. See you next week. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. If you're loving what we talked about today, please remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone you love. And if you're ready to dive deeper into discovering your root causes and patterns that are keeping you hooked on sugar, be sure to check out our brand new free workshop series that will help you kick emotional eating for good. Find the link to download this free series and other amazing resources in the show notes below.